Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening. Thanks for starting your week with us. I'm Russ Riesinger. The Billings School District has hit a snag in the process of getting a $1.6 million mill levy before voters. A conflict within Montana's seldomly used election disaster laws preventing progress. Q2's Mitch Legge joins us now to break down tonight's school board meeting.
While Billings School District officials are working through the levy process, legal experts say that Montana's declaration of emergency must be lifted before that levy can be brought to voters. The state statute governing emergency school elections is more geared towards the usual disasters of fire and flood, not a global pandemic. At the board meeting Monday, the school's legal counsel said the declaration of emergency must be lifted or modified for the $1.6 million levy to head for a vote.
Of course, it hasn't been lifted or terminated, so that thing has to occur, that condition has to occur before we can actually set it. So you're not the only school district that has this issue right now.
The district has been working with the Yellowstone County Attorney and Elections Administrator for guidance on future decisions. The levy would increase property taxes on a Billings home worth $100,000 by less than $10 a year, and the owner of a home worth $200,000 would pay about $20 more per year in property tax. Billings School District 2 Superintendent Greg Upham said that he expects the district to be able to work through those legal challenges. Ballots for the school election should be mailed out to voters on June 17th. In Billings, Mitch Legge, MTN News.
All right, thanks, Mitch. The school district cannot use the $3 million it's expecting to receive from the Federal CARES Act to fill the elementary budget deficit. Well, here in Montana, positive tests came back on 2 more people on Sunday, one in Ravalli County, the other here in Yellowstone County. Those positives bring the state's current reported number of COVID-19 active cases to 18. 434 have recovered, just 4 remain hospitalized. Meanwhile, Wyoming's health officials report the state's 10th COVID-19 related death. The state stands at 577 total COVID-19 cases, 504 have recovered. The Montana VA healthcare system is starting to re-implement many in-person services that had been suspended. Montana was selected as a lead site in its regional Veterans Integrated Service Network. They're using a phased approach to reintroduce healthcare services, including laboratory, pathology, pharmacy, and radiology services. Elective procedures and dental will continue in the coming weeks. The Montana VA will keep screening for COVID-19 and require patients to wear a face mask in facilities. The VA will also use telehealth, which they say has been invaluable over the past 2 months. The Montana VA urges veterans to reach out if they're experiencing any kind of medical issue and not avoid getting treatment. Well, Yellowstone National Park reopened today on the Wyoming side, but here in Montana, many are wondering when the 3 gates here will open for the season. As of now, Governor Bullock has not set a date for that to happen, but as MTN's John Shear reports, some business owners want that change sooner rather than later.
What's keeping the Montana gates to Yellowstone closed is the state's 14-day quarantine requirement for out-of-state visitors. Governor Steve Bullock insists it's working.
We have the lowest hospitalizations and cases per population in the nation.
So Bullock says he's unlikely to lift the quarantine until at least the 1st of June. Business owners say he should reconsider.
We need to get open. We need to, the virus is a terrible thing, but we have to deal with it, and we just can't have the whole country go bankrupt.
That Montana should take a closer look at what guidelines we have so that our businesses can get back to somewhat normal.
We need to figure out how we're going to deal with the new normal, because if you wait too long, we can't exist.
Park Superintendent Cam Shawley admits it's a tough decision.
We're doing the best job that we can to reconcile divergent opinions on these issues with our partners.
Shawley said he hoped Montana and Wyoming could agree on an opening date, but Bullock wants assurances that the park will be ready for the crowds.
Including health screening protocols, a surveillance testing plan, the limiting of large gatherings and frequent cleaning and sanitation requirements.
If they use the best practices for mitigation and keeping themselves and others safe, we can move forward and there won't be any problems or minimal problems.
But there's one step Shawley says the park just won't take.
I will not put my staff at risk having them attempt to socially distance large crowds of visitors who decide not to adhere to social distancing guidance.
Business owners we spoke with agree that behavior of park visitors is the key to keeping it open. They say every business needs to impress that upon their guests. In Bozeman, John Shearer, MTN News.
Oh, the governor says another reason he's keeping the Montana gates closed is to give local health departments time to prepare for large numbers of tourists. Our Jay Cohn entered into the park on the Wyoming side. We'll hear from him a little later in the newscast. Today marks 40 years since the most destructive volcanic explosion in modern U.S. history. On May 18, 1980, an earthquake triggered the eruption of Mount Saint Helens, sending ash, mud, and debris hundreds of miles away. That explosion destroyed homes. It killed 57 people. It also blasted the top of that some 1,300 feet off of the volcano. Mount St. Helens could erupt again in our lifetimes. However, scientists say it's likely it wouldn't be as forceful due to that deep crater that was made some 40 years ago. I was in high school here in Billings at the time. Remember, they let us out of school the following day. It was actually a nice day. The ash started moving in a little later than they thought it was going to. But to think how powerful that was, it shot 10 miles up into the air.
I worked with a guy who was a photographer for Como in Seattle. He was at that Mount St. Helens when it exploded, and he almost didn't make it out. He walked towards the only light he could see, recording on his camera and all that. All of a sudden, he just, there was a wind change, and he got his breath and he was able to get back out.
Wow, lucky guy.
Meanwhile, back here in Montana, let me show you what we're going to see tomorrow. No big stuff, but just big temperatures. 82 degrees for your high temperature tomorrow, and then temperatures will kind of ski slope on down into the 60s by the time Saturday and Sunday get here. And so the last time we were 82 degrees was a while ago. It was September 16th, over 9 months ago, back in 2019. Wow. Anyway, our forecast is going to be a little cooler. We'll chat more about that coming up in just a few more minutes.
All right, thank you, Bob. One person is presumed dead after falling into the water near Natural Bridge Falls in Sweetgrass County yesterday. The Sweetgrass County Sheriff's Office and Search and Rescue started an active search last night with the U.S. Water Rescue Dive Team from Billings joining that search today. The search continued throughout the day, but no body was discovered. Active search and recovery operations were suspended as of 5 p.m. today, but passive search efforts will continue through coming weeks. The name of the victim has not yet been released. There's more information coming out about two murders that happened late last week here in Yellowstone County. Prosecutors say 34-year-old Jennifer McCollum was brutally beaten and stabbed to death by a jealous ex-boyfriend with her children in the home at the time. Deputies responded to Arrow Creek Trailer Court in Ballantyne early Friday morning to find McCollum lying dead in a pool of blood, her three young children peering out the window of the trailer. McCollum had stab wounds to her neck, face, and wrist, and had also been beaten. 37-year-old Stephen Phillips is charged with deliberate homicide in McCollum's death. Prosecutors say he lives in the same trailer court, and the two had recently broken up from a relationship. Witnesses told deputies he'd been threatening the woman in recent days. And a 33-year-old man shot and killed just a few hours earlier has also been identified now. Yellowstone County Coroner Cliff Mahoney says Kenneth Cobb died of a single gunshot wound to the chest. That happened at a home on 429 19th Street West. 62-year-old Robert Knight is due in court tomorrow and faces a charge of deliberate homicide. According to court documents, Knight told police that Cobb and Cobb's girlfriend wouldn't stop arguing and that he shot Cobb after he refused to leave the home. In national news, President Trump says he's taking the controversial drug hydroxychloroquine to stop him from catching the coronavirus. The president admitted that he's been taking the drug along with zinc for nearly 2 weeks, despite FDA warnings not to take it. It has been used to treat malaria, though, for nearly 40 years, but the FDA has said it should only be used for COVID-19 patients that are in the hospital. The president said he consulted with the White House physician before taking it.
No, I asked him, what do you think? He said, well, if you'd like it. I said, yeah, I'd like it.
Also on the national scene, the drug manufacturer Moderna Therapeutics posted promising results in phase 1 of its COVID-19 vaccine trial. The FDA has now given the go-ahead for phase 2 after early participants developed antibodies after receiving 2 doses of the trial vaccine. They say the goal is to have a vaccine available for broad distribution by the end of the year or early next year. And presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's campaign said today that he will rescind the Keystone XL pipeline permit if he's elected. Biden's policy director said in a statement that Biden strongly opposed the Keystone pipeline in the last administration and will proudly stop it for good if he becomes president. That pipeline, which would deliver oil from Canada to the U.S., has been blocked in court and is facing an appeal from the Trump administration. Still to come on tonight's 10 o'clock news, we'll take a look in sports where fans are back inside an arena for the first time in quite a while, but the PBR. Scott will have the details on that coming up in just a bit, plus the rest of the day's news.
Watching MTN News with Janelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.